I am William Bill Edwards, your host of Wisdom Wednesdays. Tonight's show will bring a different platform. In the first part of the hour, I am pleased to have a very, very special guest, former mayor of New Orleans and current president and CEO of the National Urban League, the nation's largest civil rights and urban advocacy organization. Morial, who will be introducing his documentary film, Gumbo Coalition. The second part of the show will be someone that you all know, and that is Michelle Taylor Willis, CEO of Gagnant Media. The show's topic today will probably be centered around experience makes a difference. Marc, how you doing?
I'm great to be with you. Thank you for having me, and congratulations on all of your successes and on the work you're doing to bring positive messages to our community.
Absolutely. And, I got to say, Marc is one of my fraternity brothers. So, you have to have him on the show.
85.
06, baby. 06. Marc, let's begin by talking to you about, tell people a little bit about yourself, your career, and what's going on.
No, thank you. I'm a native of New Orleans and grew up with two two wonderful parents who were civil rights advocates. My late father was an NAACP leader and certainly the first African-American legislator in Louisiana history, first Black mayor of New Orleans. My mother was a second grade teacher and later a university administrator, but a civic and civil rights leader in her own right. And I grew up in New Orleans, as the community was emerging from segregation. So my brothers and sisters and I, we went to schools that had historically been all white. Our parents stressed education. They stressed going to church. They stressed working hard. They stressed living a life of purpose. And that's motivated me through my career as a lawyer. I finished Georgetown University Law School, a state legislator in the state Senate in Louisiana, mayor of New Orleans, youngest in modern times. And then here where I'm doing this work now at the National Urban League as its president and chief executive officer. I am always thankful for the opportunity, passion, and purpose. And that's what I try to do every single day. The National Urban League has been around since 1910. I am its today. The organization is not about me. It's bigger than me. I just have the chance to be its leader at this important point in time, in American history, important point and intersectional time for Black people and incredible challenges. So I am just thankful for the opportunity to serve. I owe so much to mentors, teachers, coaches, family members, collaborators, coalition builders, and allies that I've had a chance, who've nurtured me and pushed me, and then I've had an opportunity to work for. So, I also enjoy the chance to give back and work with and elevate the careers of young people.
Well, I think people should know that your late father, the Ernest Dutch Morial, was also the mayor of New Orleans, and you came along, and you also became the mayor.
We're the first father-son African-American mayors in American history. And of course, he served, and then I served, was elected 8 years after he left office. He passed, unfortunately, a few years after he left office. He never had an opportunity to see me in any elected position, never saw my political career, but remains a significant inspiration to me. He was a one-of-a-kind force of nature personality and taught all of us, I have 3 sisters and a brother, to be proud of our family legacy, but to be our own people and to be our own persons, and that we would rise and fall on our own hard work and commitment and hustle. And that's how we were raised. And So his influence in me is considerable, and he influenced the city. He was a Jackie Robinson of Louisiana politics. I mean, he opened the door to the legislature. He opened the door to the judiciary. He opened the door to City Hall. And everywhere he went, others followed in his footsteps and in his stead. He always said, it's not about me, it's about whether people will be able to follow me, whether the door I open can remain open. So thank you for mentioning him. Yes, he was the 23rd General President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, and fraternity that we both share, the powerful first African-American Greek letter organization that still is a powerful force in the building and the making of strong men and strong leaders.
Well, like the young guys say, the oldest and the coldest.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about, you said something about leadership, and I want to get your views on two things. Leadership, and secondly, the importance of relationships.
So let me put it this way, we as people rely on others.
Mm-hmm.
And what relationships are about is about others. And great things happen when people work in teams. While someone might shine because they're out front, while the spotlight might sometimes be on an individual, great accomplishments occur because teams of people do it. Groups of people do it. Organizations, families, whatever it may be. So it's important to understand what leadership is and what it is not. A good leader is a team builder and a teammate and part of a team, right. Whether you're in higher ed, whether you're in business, whether you're in politics, whether you are running a church or a community-based group or a choir or a band, it is the collective. And even if you say, well, I have a one-person business, your team includes others. It includes your customers. It includes those that emotionally support you, sometimes financially support you, those that encourage you. So I really believe in my book, Gumbo Coalition, which I recommend. This is a pervasive theme throughout the book, the notion of team. And a good leader understands how to follow. And a good follower can also be a good leader. So I encourage people to recognize, we're often asked, a leader's born or leader's made? Be born a little, made a little. And leading takes many forms and many fashions.
Mm-hmm. Someone told me just the other day about people who aspire to get in elected officials and around cities that you can have all the savvy in the world about politics, but that does not go over to governance.
That is sure.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sometimes because they're persons, they can sell themselves. They can sell themselves to voters, but to serve is something else. Mm-hmm. It requires a knowledge of government. It requires some sense of legislation if you're a legislator, if you're an executive branch official, about leadership and about management. Just simply the ability to sell yourself and get elected doesn't automatically make you effective at what you do. You have to work at it. Mm-hmm. And I think there's no elected official worth their salt, worth their beans, worth their value, who doesn't say, I am learning all the time. I got to the state legislature, and there's in the legislature, there's always going to be a group of politicians who are there to look like just to have a good time, just kind of go along for the ride. And then there's a group who are there who are serious. And the one that was serious, I noticed they went to briefings, they paid attention, they prepared for committee meetings, and ultimately they rose like cream rises to the top because they put in the work and they put in the effort. And I noticed that when I got there very quickly and said, you know, if I'm going to have an impact in this body, I've got to do my homework. I've got to build relationships with serious members. I've got to understand that there's a lot of expertise on the staff. I've got to get to know who the lobbyists are, not from the standpoint of who can take me out to dinner or take me out for a cup of coffee, but, you know, what interests they represent. So you're so right. And look, elected office is about service.
Absolutely.
Not about being a celebrity. On Instagram, hey, you got to have an IG account. You got to promote yourself. You might have to have an X account. Although a lot of people drop an X, you might have to do Facebook, TikTok. You have to promote yourself, get on the radio, get on television, and the like. I understand that, but that's not what it's all about. That's a part of a method of communicating the work you do, the problems of a community, the solutions you champion.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, you know, before you and I, you know, I was the first mayor of South Fulton. That was a challenge in itself. I tell people and that's something that a lot of people do not have the ability to say that I was the first. But you know, back in our days when there was elected officials and cities, we didn't have the kind of media stuff that goes on today. We all ran on our merit. We didn't have people telling lies and making up things and putting it on Facebook. Tell me about that challenges.
It is highly offensive to me that you seem to have people aspiring to or an elected office who have no relationship with the truth.
All right.
Who are literally pathological liars, exaggerators, deniers, claim things that are absolutely not true. You know, one of the fundamentals of this nation and free speech, with the right to free speech goes a sense of responsibility. And that part of that responsibility is to tell the truth about things. You have to offer your opinion, and it's eroding. What the impact of it, you know this, it erodes people's confidence in their own role in democracy. If they think all the elected officials are a bunch of self-absorbed, you know, entertainers and clowns, you know, and who want to deny the outcome of elections. I mean, when people deny the outcome of elections, they sound like third world despots. That's what third world despots do. That's what despots in totalitarian countries do. When they lose, the only election that's fair to them is one that they win. Any election they lose is unfair. And there's a pattern to it. And we've seen in this country, people take a page out of that old authoritarian playbook and play it here in the United States.
Yeah. You referred to as being street smart and bedroom savvy.
Boardroom.
About that. Boardroom. I missed that. I don't want to say that now. Bedroom, so I'll leave that up to you. But you referred to as street smart and boardroom savvy. Tell me what that really means.
I mean, a writer described me that way many, many years ago, and I think my father loved the poem we all learned when we were initiated into Alpha. It's the poem "If." Rudyard Kipling, and there's a line in there that you must learn to walk with kings and not lose the common touch. My father repeated that incessantly. He would always say, look, you cannot forget where you came from. You cannot forget how to talk to and be real with people, but you also have to be able to stand up with the high and mighty. And I think for me, that's been a guiding force, and I'm guided by being authentic. You know, no matter who I'm talking to, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to want to hear what people have to say. I'm going to want to share with what I think, and I'm going to be candid about it. So I take it in that way. And I think, elected officials, one of the powers of democracy is you represent everybody, no matter who elects you, the high and mighty, those struggling in the community. You represent everybody. And I think you have to learn. You probably, when you served as mayor, you know, everyone came to you with an issue, with a challenge, with a problem. You have to listen. You have to try to solve it. And you didn't sit there and say, this one is not important, this person's not important, this person's more important. I'll listen to this one, but I won't listen to that one, or I'll hear what this one has to say, but I'll blow the other one off. And I think that's a very important basic principle, you know, of serving. Now, look, you go to meetings. I mean, I remember going to a couple of town hall meetings in neighborhoods where I didn't have the most support, and, you know, have people try to shout me down. Right? I'd have to sit there and handle it, and I would handle it. And I would allow you shout me down, and when you're finished talking, I'm going to respond. But I'll ask you to give me the respect to hear what I have to say. Just give me that respect.
Yeah, yeah. I found the formula for me is to listen first, and then respond to what I think I heard, and then to offer a solution.
Yes.
People appreciate that.
Appreciate you trying.
Right.
Trying to solve their problems, trying to help them out, trying to guide them, trying to point them in the right direction. And this work sometimes, you know, our job is to point people in the right direction, to assist them in finding the resources or the connection that they need to solve a challenge, solve a problem, find a job, become a homeowner, build their business, help their family.
Yeah. Now, New Orleans, were you a strong mayor or were you a weak mayor?
No, we had a strong mayor form of government. The mayor of New Orleans, operating under the city charter, had broad executive powers, full-time job with a city council who was the legislative branch, but the mayor had all executive authority. In those days, the mayor could appoint people to his senior leadership staff and to cabinet positions without councilmatic confirmation. The mayor had significant control over the finances of the city. But you know, the whole thing about a strong mayor form of government is, you know, it also is as effective and as strong as the person wielding the office. And so a strong mayor form of government doesn't mean you operate as an autocrat or as a solo operator, but that you are empowered to lead and create direction.
He stalled on us a minute. You back? Ernest? Morial, you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Am I frozen? Yeah.
You did well. You're all right now. Go ahead.
No, so I said the strong mayor form of government is only as effective as the person in the chair. And you have to understand that strong mayor doesn't mean you operate as an autocrat or as an independent operator where you don't have any accountability. You do have to work with your legislative branch. And the legislative branch in New Orleans had significant power over things like zoning, utility regulation, and had a significant role in the budget. But it was a strong mayor form of government from 1954 to the present.
How important to you was the document that people call a city charter?
Super important, very important. And I think, you know, if you're going to hold an elected office, you should understand the powers you have. And the charter is that what it is. It's the constitution of the city that defines your powers, defines the powers of the legislative branch, outlines the structure of government. Really important document. I kept the city charter on my desk the entire time I was in office. I kept a copy of it on the top of my desk. So from time to time, when issues came up, I'd take a peek at it. I'd take a look at it. I wanted to see, and super important.
Now, you are the leading voice on the national stage in the battle for jobs, education, housing, health, voter rights, equity, and entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit about your work in those areas.
So the National Urban League is a unique civil rights organization. On one hand, we are an advocacy organization for civil rights and social and economic justice. But on the other hand, and this is the case with the Atlanta Urban League, one of our strong Urban League affiliates, headed by Nancy Flake Johnson, we are a direct services provider. So we are providing job training, job placement. We are providing after-school programming for youth. We are providing assistance to minority business enterprises and other forms of programs. So we do both things. Many civil rights organizations may be focused on advocacy, may be focused on litigation and some public policy, and we are, but we're also focused on providing direct services. And that makes us unique, and it gives us a reach of some 3 million people a year in 92 affiliate communities across the nation. We're in 36 states and the District of Columbia.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have a question. Let me tell you what the question is. Dolores, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I have 3 questions that have come over Facebook. The first one, I'm going to give one together. What years did your father serve as in New Orleans, and what years did you serve?
He served from 1978 to 1986. I served from 1994 to 2002. There was an 8-year gap between us. My father died, it passed in 1989, so he died suddenly, unfortunately, 3 years after he left office. And so there was no overlap, and I didn't succeed him directly. There was a mayor in between the two of us.
Okay, and the other question is, what do you say to the relevance of the Urban League?
I say to people, ask the people we serve. People we serve what our relevance is. Ask the people who, because of the Urban League, are now homeowners for the first time. Ask the returning citizen who, when they emerged from jail, the Urban League assisted them in getting a job as a truck driver or building a business. Ask the young families who, because of the Urban League's home buyer education programs, are now homeowners for the first time. I think our results do our talking. And you may be in a community where there is no Urban League affiliate. We are not in every community. We're not in every city. We are in 92 communities, but I think our work speaks for us. And then I think our voice, particularly on federal issues, on Capitol Hill, we just finished working on the federal budget to try to ensure that some important things got done. And there were some new dollars for early childhood education in that budget. There were dollars for workforce programs and community development projects that urban leagues will lead in that budget. So we are active and we're involved. But I think people should, I always say, talk to the people we serve and ask them, did we make a difference in their lives?
Well, I know you have a presence in my hometown, and that's Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yeah, we have a very, very dynamic leader by the name of Jermaine Smith Baugh. The Urban League of Broward County is one of the top-rated Urban League affiliates in the country, and they do important work. We're also in West Palm Beach, just up the road in Florida as well.
Yeah. Now, you're a published author, and you've got a leadership book out called Gumbo Coalition. Tell us a little bit about that.
I want you to all go out and go on Amazon, go online and get the book Gumbo Coalition. It's 10 leadership lessons. I talk about my early life. I talk about my career as a lawyer, my career as a legislator, my career as mayor, my career as a civil rights leader. And really what the book is about is it talks in stories about things I learned from others, leadership lessons I learned. It talks about networking. It talks about planning. It talks about what to do when you encounter obstacles. It is an important book, and it's not a textbook. It's not a textbook as such. It is a book of leadership that tells stories stories that I lived and stories that I experienced. And so we also have a companion Gumbo Coalition documentary, which is available on HBO Max, which chronicles the cooperative work between the National Urban League and a Latino civil rights organization, UNIDOS, and its leader, Janet Murguia. So it showcases our work in the reentry area in St. Louis with our Save Our Sons program.
Listen, you told me I'm gonna get it when we get off of this show. But
it's fun, it's real, it's raw in some places. You love the documentary, you love the book.
Yeah. So you talk about the 10 leadership lessons. Can you kind of just tell us what those 10?
I'll talk about a couple of them. So one of them is about the value proposition of planning. When you are a leader, you have to have a plan. Plan is an important way to make sure that when you proceed, when you run, you're clear on direction. And I talk about how speed is important. Moving fast is important, but speed without direction is nothing.
Okay.
I talk about the wisdom to change. You may have a plan. When do you modify that plan because circumstances have changed? I talk about when to hold and when to fold. There's a time to be tough. And there's a time sometimes to compromise. And to and these are not easy choices. There's no magic around it. Talk about networking with intention. The necessity of understanding, you talked about it at the top, relationship building and how to build those relationships and how to nurture those relationships and how to do it with intention. Talk about innovation and the diversity and equity and inclusion space. I talk about compassion, that sometimes to be compassionate is a tough choice because it may require some sacrifice. So, and I talk and I learn lessons from many other people on this whole road of life. And I hope that with this book, I'm paying it forward. And I encourage others out there to tell their stories. You know, you can tell it, you know, if you can't write a book, you can also tell it through Instagram. You can tell it through Facebook, video. I mean, you can tell. We have to all support the next generation emerging in our communities. Young men, young women, they're thirsty, they're hungry for information, they're hungry for knowledge, they're hungry for support.
But let me ask you this. Can they lead?
I think many can. I think they have to be challenged to lead in some cases. In other cases, I think they need to be nurtured and assisted to lead. I think in some cases, everybody may not be able to lead. You know, one of our jobs sometimes, I know you know this, is to identify people with leadership capabilities we run across and to nurture them. And sometimes that nurturing is an encouraging word. Sometimes it's spending time with someone. There's many ways to support people in their journey. It means so much. When I think about conversations I had along the way with teachers and coaches and people in the community who spent just a little bit time with me, giving me a kernel, a morsel, it was incredibly valuable. At the time, it may have seemed small, but in the long run, it was very valuable. We have to do the same thing.
Well, you have a weekly syndicated television show called America's Black Forum. What are you getting out of that? Who are you reaching?
So we're reaching, thank you for asking about that. We're in 90 markets and we're working with Central City Productions out of Chicago and the Stellar Network. Brother Don Jackson, a pioneering television executive who goes all the way back to the 1970s. He and his company produced the show. I'm the studio host of the show. And we highlight positive stories about Black America. We do stories on businesses, on individuals, on social justice battles. It is a very, very great show. And at Central City Productions at Stella Network, you can get the list of markets. It comes on at different times and on different stations in different markets. But it's on in 90 plus markets around the country.
Well, Mr. Morial, you have done so much in a short time, even for me. And I've been in politics now some 19 years. And I was a Fulton County Commissioner.
Oh, wow.
Was my first venture into doing so. And you have given me bits of wisdom, and I hope others who aspire to be in leadership as we go on. I'm going to bring on with you. You can stay. I'm going to bring on with you somebody you know. I don't know you if you want to admit you know him, but you know. Penny, can we bring Michelle in?
Look at Michelle's rocking the hat. Look out. No, look, Mayor Edwards, she's an outstanding rising star in her own right. And I'm so impressed with what she does and what she's doing.
She's just a thorn in my side, but I'm gonna put her on. Can we get Michelle in? Michelle.
Yeah.
Look at you. How you doing?
I'm good. First of all, let me say thank you, Mark, for being nice to me. And Bill, I don't know how I could ever be a thorn in someone's side. All I ever try to do is love you.
Well, your trying is making a difference. So we just had Mark on.
Yeah.
Very good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I wish everybody could have the ability to hear what Mark has to say. What have been your views about some of the points that he brought out?
So one of the things I love that Mark talks about really is leadership, because I think in pretty much every, kind of faction of society right now, we're missing leaders. I mean, true leaders, servant leaders, people who are willing to kind of pick up the cross and do what no one else will do without a thank you, without the gratitude, without the accolades. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Mark mentioned earlier that, people and politicians or people in public office should lead with an attitude of service, that it's never about them. It's always about everybody else. And so the more I learn about Mark and the more I listen to him, the more I kind of think that his brand really is synonymous with this servant leadership mentality. And so my key takeaways really are, how do you become a better leader? How do you become better for yourself so that you can become better for others? How do you really lead with a mentality that enables you to focus on the betterment of everybody else instead of the betterment of yourself? Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Now, you're in the community a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, you still on?
I'm here, yes.
Well, she in the community more than I am, I think. But anyway, as you travel through the community, what are some of the types of things that you hear from people in the community about this whole issue of service and leadership?
I think the biggest thing I hear is that there's a lack of it, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the older generations, certainly not you and Mark, because I wouldn't consider you guys older at all. But,
Right.
people who have been around a little bit longer, and even a lot of people that are younger are concerned that there isn't or there aren't a lot of identifiable leaders, right? And people that are willing to kind of step up. That's what I hear when people talk, even just in the local Atlanta area, regionally and nationally. I mean, there are a lot of leaders out there, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people can't point to them. They can't say who they are. And so it's kind of like, who are the next Andy Youngs? I mean, I interviewed Ambassador Young a few weeks ago, and I asked him that, like, who's the next Andy Young? Who's the next Marc Morial? Who's the next Bill Edwards, right? Who are these people? And I think that there's a genuine concern that sometimes, like, we don't know who are the 20s, 30s, 40s that are going to carry the torch of all the things that, that you guys have done. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
It does, but I think there's so much out there. But leaders are driven by passion,
Yes.
and it's the passion to bring about change. And we've got to tap and encourage people to kind of, sometimes being leading means you got to step out.
Yep.
Step out a little bit, step up a little bit, you know, and it's not it's not just celebrity leadership.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
active servant, purpose-driven leadership. And so we have, you know, I think there's a lot of potential out there, but we have to challenge folks to step up and step out.
But to both of you, I want to say, well, ask this question now. You find that a lot of people who have stepped up to be leaders carry with them a lot of emotion, Marc. And that emotion, you know, leads in some hostility sometimes. What do you think about, you know, this?
Yeah, you can feel, you know, sometimes a leader can feel unappreciated. They can feel, because when you do put yourself out there, you're going to be criticized. You know, you're going to have haters. What Jay-Z said. You ain't nobody if you ain't got no haters.
Yes.
Like in your head, level set that, you know, it doesn't feel good.
Right.
When people are stabbing you in the back or saying, you know, disparaging things about you. And it requires, you know, sometimes to be a leader, you need alligator skin.
Yes.
You know, a level of toughness to go along. And sometimes it, honestly, you know, Bill, it takes time. Sometimes it takes time to build that.
Yes.
I think when I was younger, I was a lot more sensitive in many, many ways about some things. And over time, you gain the confidence in your position and you understand that people are going to criticize you. There's going to be envy. There's going to be jealousy. There's going to be hostility. There's going to be fundamental disagreements. You know, and I'm speaking from the standpoint of being both an activist and a community leader and a political leader and now a civil rights leader. You know, people challenge, me all the time. And I just, my thing is I stay focused and, and I'm not rattled because there's always someone who says, we should be doing more about this. And I receive it. But sometimes I look at people and say, you are nothing but an observer. I'd like to challenge you to get in this fight as well. Step up, be a part, make a difference. Don't just be a spectator.
Yeah.
You got a question, though? We got a question for you guys.
Michelle, this question is for you. Would you say the mantle is not being passed?
I would say that there is certainly a perception that the baton is not being passed. Yeah. Or maybe it's not being grabbed.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but I do know that, from talking to some of the greats, like, Ambassador Young and Marc Morial and, and C.T. Vivian, they were groomed, right? Like people were groomed. They're really, they were groomed. And I don't know, I feel like in certain circles and in certain spaces, some people are being groomed, but are they being groomed with the expectation that it's like, this is what is for you. And this is now what's going to be yours. And this is the expectation of you, right? I don't know that those conversations are happening at the levels that they should be, or if they are, again, they're not being received and run with them. Here's what I do know. There are people in other spaces, I'll say it that way, that are absolutely having those conversations every day, all day. And the baton is being passed and the baton is being grabbed. And it's evident and it's clear. There's no question about it.
What about, and Marc, you can weigh in on this battle between the truth and speculation, innuendo, and rumor. How do you get the truth to prevail?
You know, I think people have to have a loyalty to the truth.
Mhm.
The entire, if I could just say, history of the Black experience in this country
Mm.
was based on a long narrative of falsity. And that narrative was the narrative of the inferiority of Blackness.
Mhm.
The justification, you couldn't oppress someone if you thought they were your equal.
Mhm.
So oppression required you to say, well, these folks are not equal to me in intelligence and ability, and the only thing they can do is menial or manual labor. And the entire system of slavery and segregation was based on that notion. It was a fundamental lie,
Mm.
a lie against humanity. It was a lie against the very essence of God's creation of all of his children. It foisted, it fostered, it nurtured, it flowered for hundreds of years. And in many respects, we still have to break it. And so that's why a loyalty to the truth and not to false narratives that people create is so important in today's world. And so we have to call out falsity. There's a difference between a difference of opinion
Mhm.
and and abject just lying and storytelling.
Mm.
Mhm.
We have to recognize that, and I think leaders, have to call this out. And we've been the witness to it in this country in the last 6 or 7 years in a way that is unprecedented, and I think unimaginable for an educated, intelligent society. The United States is an educated, literate society, fundamentally. And how people can be so bamboozled who are educated and snookered as educated people is beyond sometimes my ability to comprehend.
Absolutely. We got to get Michelle. We got to get Mayor in Atlanta.
Oh, he's here. I mean, he's here several times a
Yeah,
year.
well,
I'm
see,
coming in May, and
Yeah.
the National Urban League's got a leadership summit taking place in I think second week in May. So I'm going to be in for a couple of days, and
Yep.
I love Atlanta. It's a great community. It's a great city. It's got history. It's pivotal, and it is one of those bellwether communities. As Atlanta goes, so goes presidential elections now.
Right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Well, I tell you, this has been great from both of you all. And Michelle, you keep doing what you're doing, even though I may criticize you every now and then. But you keep doing what you're doing because I love you. My
Thank
frat
you.
brother, my fraternity brother, and Mayor Morial, thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
This has been aspiring, educational to us, and I hope that all the listeners out there gain some positive perspective from the things you have said today, because every time we have an election, it gets tougher and tougher, Mayor. We have sometimes people believe a lie faster than they believe the truth. Someone told me that a lie go around the world before the truth puts his pants on.
Lie will go around the world, boy.
That's something we objectively have to deal with every day, Mayor. And your leadership with the Urban League and others, your show, your book that I'm going to get.
I got mine.
Dolores said she already got hers.
Thank you. And don't forget to go Gumbo Coalition on HBO Max.
Gumbo Coalition on HBO Max. Well, Dolores, she stays on that Amazon. I'm glad she ordered a book today instead out of a dress. But it's been so. I've always admired you and your father.
Thank you.
Being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and you don't know about Dutch Morial and her son, Ernest. unthinkable. If you pick up the history book of Alpha, you'll learn quickly about Dutch Morial and the Morial family. So we're very, very pleased, and I'll like to have other conversations with you. I'll get with what's her name, Michelle.
Yeah, we'll come back again. Mayor Brother Edwards, thank you so very much for having me this afternoon, and Michelle Taylor Willis, she's going to keep on doing it and making a difference and shaking them up.
Well, thank you all very, very much, both Michelle and Mayor Morial, for being on the show today. I'm proud to be a part of WCEG, where we speak life into the community. If you want to see us, we're on several different platforms: Smart TV, Roku, YouTube, LinkedIn, WCEG Network. Please note that the topics we discussed today, are those of the show hosts and guests, and not WCEG Network. We want to thank you for your continued support, and as always, in all you're getting, get an understanding. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank